Uh, live. All right, let's.
Steve Van Samson,
Curtis M. Lawson,
Paul Christian Glenn, Joshua Rex, Raz, Rob Smales.
We just said Rob Smales, and look who we have, everybody.
Yeah,
it's Rob Smales.
I don't think I'd seen that opening before. I have the weirdest smile right there.
We have you in a couple of our openings.
Yes.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Thank Cthulhu it's Sunday. Welcome back to October and another episode of The Clutch. We have Rob on with us again tonight. We're going to have a great October. We have Rob on tonight. Next week, we have Dan's, a.k.a. DG Chichester, coming on. He has a new Kickstarter for a new horror comic coming out. And then later in the month, we have some more. We're going to be doing 2 storytelling things, and we have William Holloway in the middle of it. So I believe we're doing tonight, then Mr. Chichester, and then we're going to be doing a horror episode of Owl Light Society, and then we're going to be doing William Holloway, and then we're going to be doing our Halloween version of the Owl Light Society, which will be all about families and things like that, because when the veil is thin, this is when you tell the stories about your ancestors and all of your family members to bring everybody closer.
Hi.
Hey, Tom Dog. How's it going? So, yeah, how are you guys doing?
I'm happy to be here.
I'm not bad. I'm just avoiding Salem at the moment.
What's going on in Salem? Or
it's October.
Oh. Okay, gotcha. So it's kind of like the whole month is...
Yes.
There are so many people there. It's not funny, and it's very crowded.
Yes.
So when is a good time to go visit Salem if you are...
Summertime?
Okay.
Yes. Everybody likes to go in October because they want to get all the Halloween stuff. The problem is... Well, it's not really a problem. The reality is Halloween never goes away in Salem. It's always there. All the stuff, all the seasonal things that everyone's kind of trying to see, they'll still be there in July. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. And everybody who's watching, as it says down at the bottom there, tonight we're going to be talking to Rob about his latest release. Well, soon to be release, just about released.
2 weeks.
Book, Spearfinger. Make sure you throw up something in the comments because I have the giveaway tool going, and you have to comment in order for your name to get registered on it. And once we get it registered, we're going to be doing some spins at the end of the show and giving away a couple of pre-ordering a couple of copies that will be delivered to you once the book has been released.
Cool. October 14th.
October 14th.
Yes.
Awesome.
That is my mom's birthday. That is the best day to release a book.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Oh, and speaking of birthdays, today is my brother-in-law's birthday. And so, Tom, please have birthday.
Try to have the best birthday, Tom.
That's my brother's kind of a card. So
okay.
Oh, and that was a card.
Yes.
So there we go. So yeah, Spearfinger that you released. When I was talking to him about this, setting up the show, and he sent me a copy so I could read it early, so I'm not just coming in here blind. He's like, it's not really horror. It's more it. And I had to tease him back, and I get what you were saying though, but I was like, there's a lot of murder, very graphically depicted. I mean, not like hugely horribly, but
yeah,
things. But it is also like I was shocked and I was highly amused at the same time.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm a little jaded. The thing is, it's not really focused on that. It's kind of focused more on. It's the story of Carl Spaberg, who is he thinks he's a hotshot reporter.
Mhm.
He had a story last year that he insisted that someone publish, and no one would take it from him. Um, and he wound up being kind of blackballed down to tabloid status. Now, all he really wants is to get the big juicy story that's going to push him back up into mainstream reporting again. And so I was thinking more about that. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Um,
Steve Van Sampson.
Man, Samson.
Like,
Yeah, I was focused more on that in my mind, and not really the cannibalistic ogress part.
yeah, I get it though. Yeah, it was the the murders were there to feed the
Yes,
rest of the story
yes,
and such. I did get that. I was just like, there's a bit of horror. There's a bit of horror. It's horror adjacent,
yeah, there is,
but it
and
is
but
mostly focused on Carl. And God, he's a great character.
he's fun. He is. There's a lot of fun characters in this.
Yeah,
At least
m-
they were fun for me. They were fun on my side of the table. Hopefully, they're fun for y'all.
one of my favorite characters in the story was Max Bierman's chin. It,
Yeah,
Rob has been able to turn a chin into its own character in this story. It's great. The descriptions about it and like the influence of the chin is something that will get you right off the bat, and you're
that
going to
sounds
enjoy hearing about that.
that sounds weirder than it is, but thank you.
No, there's been entire books titled "The Chin," and the actor is well known for their chin.
Yes.
So yeah, it's weird, but it's not as weird as one would think.
No.
And the chin doesn't have a huge part to play. It's in the introduction, and but it is its own character outside of Max Bierman himself.
It's practically a henchman. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some people have their cat that they pet. He has his chin that
Yes.
exists to do his things. And you have some great characters throughout all of this. Thomas Kalis- Kaliskawe?
Kalaskawe.
Thomas Kaliskawe
I
is
believe.
okay. So you said it. That's what it is now.
I've it takes place in Cherokee, North Carolina. So there are lots of
Yes.
Cherokee names. I did look up the proper what the internet says is the proper pronunciation of the names. Hopefully the internet is right. The internet's not really known for being 100% accurate though, so I did
Yeah.
my best.
So to give a brief overview of the book, Carl Spegler, our love to hate him reporter, has been assigned a story by the tabloid that he works for. He doesn't want to do it. He's trying to get back to being a credible reporter, and he's told that okay, if he ends up having to take the assignment. So he goes to Cherokee, where there have been a number of killings that took, or a one night of killings that took place at a construction site. And while he's there, more killings keep happening until they actually bring in some of the bigger news people. But he's there and he's gotten the story first, although he doesn't necessarily go about things the way people normally would. If you were investigating, he's more of a write up the good story and then try to make it happen sort of guy.
Yes.
And there's some very fun stuff with trash beer and nutrias, which, by the way, I've had nightmares now about nutrias.
They're
They're actually
they're
they're,
nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
this yes, nutrias, they get to be 15 to 30 pounds. This is actually a picture from the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources, and since I read about the nutrias, which was just kind of a couple throwaway comments in the book, I have dreamt that I've been forced to let myself be bitten by them in order to like pass a mark in my dream. Like, if you want to go on and continue, you must stick your hand in this cage full of nutrias and let them bite you, and then you can
Wow.
go to the next stage. So
Real life
yeah,
RUSSs.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So
you have the weirdest dreams.
I do, but yes, out of all the things that I dream about in this book, I dream about the nutrias rather than the actual entity, which I want to. You call it Spearfinger, which is a
Hmm.
great nickname, but I want you to pronounce because I'm not even going to try it. What the initial potential title of the book was and what the mythological or the legend character is that was brought in here.
Yutlunta.
Yutlunta.
Yep,
Okay.
I think. I'm almost positive.
Okay. And can we describe what this character actually is, or would you rather leave that
Um,
for readers? I don't want to. I don't want to spoil it because the pre-release and it's so good.
it's not. It's a Cherokee legend about a an ogress made of stone who can disguise herself, and she eats people. She's supposed to be gone, maybe.
But that's the thing with monsters; they always find a way to come back.
They do.
If not, there's no sense in them existing. Kind of the thing for me. I don't know.
It's fun. They're fun. Yeah, I honestly. So this book came about. This book came about because I couldn't write a short story. I, I kind of explained in the author's note after the story is over.
Mm-hmm.
The New England Horror Writers, which I'm a part of, puts
Mm-hmm.
out anthologies every year or 18 months, whenever they can. And they're all themed. And there was one that was wicked creature. They're all wicked, wicked haunted ghost stories, wicked witches, and they had wicked creatures. And I was trying to write a creature short story, and it had a 7,000 word cap. And I kept writing stories that were way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up looking at a reference book that I have here. The oh god, it's got a long title: The Vampire Slayer's Guide to the Undead, I think. Which is just it's like an encyclopedia that just lists really short, brief listings of different monsters
Okay.
and from myth and legend from around the world. And I just cracked the book open and flipped a couple of pages, and there was a picture, an artist's conception of Yutlun Ta, and there was a description of her as a stone ogress who eats people's livers. And I was like, well, that's perfect. I like it. I tried to write that story for Wiki. I was trying to think of something that I was trying to come up with something that the editors hadn't seen before, and that sounded pretty good. I don't think they would have heard of that. We're in New England,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of Cherokee in New England. But again, I couldn't keep the damn story small enough. I couldn't keep it short enough, so I just kicked it aside and wrote a different story, and then came back to this because the reason it wouldn't stay short enough for me to submit for that anthology was it was too much fun.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
I as well have a problem with brevity.
yes,
It's lots of things are like okay, and this needs to be 5,000. Oh, it's already 10K. Okay,
yes.
I guess that's going to be a book later, kind of with what you're doing, and then going back and being like, what can I write that's only that long? Apparently, nothing that well.
I can eventually, if I have enough time, eventually I come around to something that will fit. Which is why I have a problem with deadlines because it's never the first story. It's always like the fifth or sixth sometimes. But that also means I have this whole like backlog of stories that are just looking for a home.
Mhm.
Hopefully, I come up with a submission call where it fits, and as soon as it opens, boom, I'm in.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there were submission calls that were just like, however the hell long you'd like it to be.
I have found a couple of those. I've been really happy when I found a couple of those. And sometimes I have noticed. So the submission calls used to be, you know, they wanted 3,000 to 7,000 words, or 2,000 to 7,000 words, but like 7,000 7,500 was kind of the cap. And I've seen a trend lately where they're asking for longer stuff, 9,000, 10,000,
Oh,
12.
good.
Okay, great. And then I have stuff that I might be able to send you. Um, I'm happy with that slightly increasing trend.
Yeah, that will be nice because it affords the shorter writers something, but you can put in some of the. I think part of it also has to do with the longer writers, just taking over the books and having like short,
Um,
huge.
yeah, I,
Because
I am in something like that where I think there's eight, I think there's nine of us in the book, and I'm about a quarter of it just because I couldn't shut up. And they took it anyway. It was way too long actually, and I submitted it. I asked, got permission to submit it anyway, and they accepted it. But yeah, it's me heavy. It's
yeah,
really me heavy.
I found stuff before where it's everybody's doing something and I'm in it, and then there's somebody who like submitted basically a novella for part of it, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I understand when it's a single author doing that, like Cabal, Clive Barker, and Night,
Yes.
the whole thing there. But usually it's not that way with mixed authors. But it it does work as long as the stories are strong and fit together. And that's something that you write strong stuff. I'm trying not to just sit here and be like, I'm praising you because you're on the show, but you're on the show because you write strong stuff. That's really
Thank you.
good. So it would be
Yeah.
nice to you'll have to let us know like some of the other things we can read. We've been grabbing a bunch of your stuff and trying to pull it up and stuff, but
Okay.
I don't know what I might. You'll have to let me know where some of the shorter stories are because I need to grab yet more of those so that I can.
There's
Um.
a total long list on Amazon where you can find almost all of his the anthologies that he's in. And as
Or
for the or what? Sorry.
I'm sorry. There's a page on my website. Um. I have like a my works section.
Mhm.
And there's two different pages in it. One is stuff that's just me, so it's my novellas and short story collections, and the other one is every place I've ever sold a story with
Okay,
links.
I need to double check and get that from you because the one I
Okay.
had went to a Wix page, but it wasn't up to date. But that might have been the
Oh,
problem with my internet. It just showed like make a page there. So,
or they moved me over there and I hadn't caught on yet. I wasn't. They probably notified me, but it went to spam. That my page was being moved over to Wix, and then I had to kind of figure out how Wix works. I think I
okay,
have, but technology and me are not the best of friends,
I
to put it
understand
kind of
that.
to put it kind of mildly. Um, I'm collecting different like industries where I have had the experts tell me, I don't know, I've never seen this before. So far, it's happened with my car, my computer, my health. Oh yeah, I exist to baffle the experts with how did you do this? I don't know.
I my okay, what back when I could drive, I just strange things would happen with the vehicles that I had. And my dad was like, you could never marry a mechanic because you would drive them up the fucking wall because they would never be able to figure out how your cars did the things that they could. You just need to marry a car salesman so they can just give you a new one whenever whatever the hell you do happens to it. Because it will happen. It always happens.
Yeah, I had a Jeep that instead of like an oil light, I had a pressure gauge, which I thought was great until the pressure it stopped and went to zero, and I thought the gauge was broken, and I had to test it all kinds of ways, and no, apparently the gauge was fine, but the like part of my engine had zero oil pressure for 2 years. They no one could explain it. Multiple experts looked at it, but yeah, no one
Yeah,
could figure that one out.
I had somebody asking me about I was having a little bit of a problem with my computer. I was still able to play games and do
Hmm.
everything else on the computer I had going on. And I was like, but it has this one little weird thing that happens when it's gone. They're like, well, okay, go over here. And they were like, look into this System 32 area. You know, I'm like, that's a scary area. We don't like to go there, but okay, I'll pull it up. They're like, now look for this file. I'm like, oh, it has one of those little, like the broken picture things that means the icon is screwed, or icons that means the file's screwed up. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you know, when you have the little, it's like a sheet of paper and it's torn and there's a little symbol on it instead of the icon for what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's what that file that you're telling me to look at has. And he's like, oh, how about this one? I'm like, oh, that's the same way. He's like, how are you running without an operating system? Because that's basically, if you don't have those files going, that's what is happening with you. You should not be able to function without Windows running, and it needs those specific things to run. And I'm like, well, I hop on and I push the button and everything loads up and I play the game. And but you don't have an operating system. Well, it shows up. It shouldn't. And I had like 4 or 5 people who, just for the sake of like taking screenshots, like hopped on my computer and were doing the like auto when you give your control over screen sharing or whatever and letting them
Yep.
run it themselves, and they were like opening up all this stuff and like taking screenshots of their own and having me send, and they're like, this person's computer is still running, we have no idea how.
No one told it it's not supposed to run, so it's just going to go.
It's going on belief.
Yeah.
I'm too ignorant to know why it shouldn't be working, so it's happening. But
It's the little PC that could.
and that's a little PC that can't because of a Windows issue, but we have the little laptop that tries right now. So
Oh,
That rocks.
we got that going. So sorry, totally went off the subject there. I'm doing a little bit of scrolling.
it happens.
It's not a nutria, thank God, because those
No.
are terrifying. But so you said that you're releasing on the 14th, and you're also doing a library event then as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to tell us
this-
about that?
It's Merrimack Valley Book Festival. It happens every October. It's, oh God, I think this year it's 70. It's authors from around the country and occasionally moving internationally to come here for one day and take over Haverhill Public Library. We wind up, there's so many of us that we have to do it kind of in shifts. And so it's a lot of people, a lot of readers who are getting to actually meet authors that they normally wouldn't be able to, because a lot of us, we do local events and I move all over New England. But this pulls in people from, Florida, California. And so the local readers here in New England actually get to meet the people that they're reading, where normally they wouldn't be able to. Not as much. It's really informal. It's lots of fun.
Sounds awesome. You guys have such a great writing culture, and particularly horror culture out of New England. I'm so jealous because
This was Christopher Golden decided to start this up. I don't know how many. I don't remember how many years ago. I want to say 9. But then COVID made a break in there where it wasn't happening. He has handed the running of it over to Melissa Sherlin because she's very organizational, and he's kind of got stuff to do. I don't know if he meant for it to become this big when he started it, but yeah, he started it, and it just kind of grew out. It wasn't 70 authors the first year, and it just kind of has grown out of control.
we let Jenny do all that because she understands and is able to keep up with everything that's going on. We're gonna do all this stuff. We have all these pages. I don't know how to use any of these pages or do anything. And Jenny's like, I got it.
Yeah.
Hey, so and so liked your post. Which post? The one I made for you. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm getting followers.
There's some people who can just do that, and then there are, me. I'm busy, like chasing squirrels and nutrients.
I'm like my
Hi,
mom thought
Shannon.
they were cute. Hey Shannon. Yay! We've got a couple other people watching too. Make sure you comment because we're going to be giving away copies, well, pre-orders of copies of Rob's book, Spearfinger, at the end of the show here. So we've got 3 people entered so far. We got Tom Dog, we got Steve, Van Sampson. I'm not going to do the whole thing because Raz isn't here, so I don't have to like go way out of control. And we got Shannon Bostwick. So, yay! Hi. But yeah, I have these are my notes for this, as I couldn't find my notebook. I have only like 15 of them, but they're around, you
I'm
know.
winging it.
We need to find which horror author or publishing company can do like I've been seeing in the romance world, where they let you give as big as a novel as you want to the omnibus, to the anthology, and then you can publish it. And then if you want to publish it all by itself later, after like 2 or 3 months or however long for the contract, you can publish it all by itself. That
Huh.
is the only place where I've seen where you can send as big as a book as you want, as many words as you want to write, and it be like, okay, let's do this.
For submitting for an anthology?
Yeah, I've seen multiple anthologies where you have entire books, like some 800 pages long,
Wow.
Wow.
and
Um,
you just and they put it out, and then later the author takes the book and then they republish it all by itself, so you can just have that one book, or you can have the anthology with all the books.
That's very cool.
okay, I do like the idea.
I've
That would
only
work for me because I can't shut up.
I've only seen it in the romance industry, and I didn't realize that nobody else is taking this page and doing it everywhere else. And I've been looking, but
Um, Romance, I think, just in general, the books tend to be longer than in horror.
mhm.
Anyway, just in general, I don't know if that translates into anthologies being longer.
Oh,
Um,
there's like 8 books. Some of them 800, anywhere between 400 to 600 pages long in the
well,
anthology. So they are humongous.
wow.
So Shannon wants to know which publisher is that.
I have basically I've multiple ones.
Oh,
I know NC Waring just put out an anthology of like all a whole entire set, and I've seen I know CM Haynes, her newest book is going to be in a set like that, and there's multiple like the motorcycle anthologies where it's full length books. So
huh.
you just have to look up genres, I think, romance genres, and you can find them.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I'm gonna. I don't write romance though. Anybody who's
Well, I'm not
romantically involved with
asking you
somebody in my
to.
books is going to end up with blood involved somewhere too, and it just
Yeah.
gets rather. This is my romance book. Ignore all the murders. Ignore the impaled heads, and they are just ambiance.
You're just crossing genres. That's all.
That's all it
Yes,
is.
you can definitely do that.
So,
So,
something I was going to ask you because it has to be a ball, and I don't always ask this, but do you do you go with the company that's doing it to give you all of your editing, or do you have beta readers that check over your stuff, like just regular people that you send most of your stuff to on a semi-regular basis for a how does this sound? Let me bounce this off you kind of thing. You don't have to give names or anything.
Um,
I'm just wondering if you have.
no, actually, I we just did a class on editing your own stuff before sending it out to an editor. I have 6 beta readers that I use. 4 of them kind of more heavily than the others. If I I have 4 that I use most of the time, and then two that are kind of in reserve if these guys are busy. It took a while to find. Most of them are writers, and the one who isn't is a big serious reader,
Mhm.
and is related to a writer. And it took a while to find folks who give me um, the kind of critical feedback that I was looking for. Because you don't want someone. They always say, don't give it to your mom, don't give it to your
Mhm.
significant other, because they're going to say it's wonderful because she's your mom. She's going to say that.
Mhm.
Um, Although actually, I don't think mine would do that. Mine would, if something were wrong, my mother would point it out. We've had book talks and stuff before, but finding people who aren't afraid to, not afraid, people who get that what a beta reader's job is to find the weaknesses in a work and point them out to the writer so the writer can then fix them before they go out into the public, before the story or book goes out in the public, and then the public gets to point out the weaknesses because they're not nice about it. So yeah, they're basically, a beta reader's job is to help keep you from stepping on your dick. um
Yeah.
I found some people who get that, which is, if you're a writer, that's incredibly helpful. And this is different from people who, um, like professionals. That I have various professionals in different fields that I can throw questions at.
Mhm.
I have someone who can tell me about guns. I have someone who can tell me about emergency medical services. Um, I have folks who can do like construction questions and legal questions. And these aren't my beta readers. These are just people that I I write something and then I come on it and, like, when in rereading it, I look at it and go, I don't really know if that's right. So I'm going to send the question to them because they'll tell me that I'm wrong nicely, as opposed to the
You
public.
never want to have something technical that is wrong,
Oh
that
no.
maybe a beta reader wouldn't know either, because the second you write that, I have wood.com or something like that saved in my thing because I was doing a story. I still have a story going that has some specific carpentry work being done. And I want to make sure that I get all of the terminology correct and things, because the second I don't, like 50 carpenters are going to buy the book and they're all going to be like, and this is absolutely not how you would do this. And I'm going to get like 0 ratings on, I'm just going to get
Yeah.
bashed for it. It,
Um,
it's good
uh,
though that you have the beta readers that have stuck around for a while because they know your voice, which is something else that can be hard initially when you're reading somebody's stuff, to
that
follow an
helps.
author's voice versus, and then there's the character's voices when you're trying to go through and, like, the character might speak completely differently, but you know,
Yes. The
and
the uh, the points of view expressed here are not necessarily the points of view of the author. They're just the points of view of the voices in the author's head. Yeah, that's kind of it.
yeah, but continue. I'm sorry I cut you
I
off
was
there.
gonna. I edit. Um, and as an example of someone not doing the research, that was actually kind of simple. Someone brought me a book. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. There was it was a police procedural. Um, and it was good. It was well written and it was entertaining, and it was all the things that you want something like that to be. Except the main character, who was a cop, had a drinking problem, and he was drinking on the job, and he got caught, and in like the first quarter of the book, and so for the next 75% of it, it was him dealing with what like the official position that the police were taking, that the force was taking with him, um, which is different than individual characters like his coworkers and what they were saying, but the actual policy that the force was taking with him, and it didn't read right to me. It was sounded off. It sounded wrong. And so I wound up I don't think most editors will do this, but I was really curious. So it was set in a town, in a real town in Connecticut. And so I called the town, I called the police, and I talked to the desk sergeant for about 45 minutes, and got what the policy actually is. He was very nice, and I probably wound up on a watch list somewhere, but it turned out that yeah, it was way off, and what the writer had them following as a policy was entertaining, and it worked for the story, but it's a police procedural. It's going to attract as a reader base. He's going to get cops. He's going to get civilians who work with cops, people who are related to cop. They have the cop in the family, friends of cops, people who like to watch cop shows, who are probably a lot better versed in that kind of thing than I was, and it rang false to me. And so I had to tell him, yeah, it's really well done, except for the whole thing's bullshit, and someone's going to be calling bullshit on you, and yeah.
Yeah, I've come across that a couple of times in things that I do editing for people as well, and a lot of beta reading, and it crushes me when I read a book that's already been published, and I see something so blatantly wrong with
Yeah.
I will not call out any names. I can't even remember this person's name, but there was somebody who wrote a book that was based on the second coming of Christ, but there were twins born, and one was the Antichrist, and the other was the second coming of Christ or something. But they kept making reference to the Immaculate Conception, and they kept saying that was, the birth of Jesus, or the conception of Jesus, and it's like, but it's not. And you based your entire book with the experts, the priests and stuff, saying this over and over and over.
Yeah.
And that's not right. And there was another one that I read that had, I don't even know how this person lives, functions in daily life, but they were writing about how they had all the green power going on in this town.
Okay.
And that what they had set up outside of town were their power plants, where they collected solar and wind energy and rain and stuff. And they said that the wind they caught up in silos that they would pump down into the town, that would come out of the air conditioners blowing, because they just kept it spinning until in the silos until it went down there. And that the solar energy was used, they kept the heat and they would send it down to the town's furnaces. And they were totally being, it wasn't like this was a moment where they were being funny.
Right.
This was their serious beliefs on how green energy works. And it didn't even have to be mentioned in the book. It was like a thriller. And this was just something they added on an entire chapter about, because they wanted to talk about how progressive their town was. And it was just like, wow.
Yeah, that sounds way more like satire.
Yeah, I would, if it had been at all, I would have again, he was dead serious. And there were a number of similar mistakes that they weren't as big as that though, but things that the author used commonly in a couple of his other stories, and it was just like, this isn't real. You need, and he'd complain if anybody criticized his writing, 'cause he's like, they haven't, and it's like, dude, just do some research, man. It doesn't really take that long. And if you don't know how something works, just don't bring it up.
Right.
If it's not critical to the story, just don't mention it.
No, I'm paranoid about getting something kind of, it might not be obvious to me, but anyone in a major industry, it's obvious to them, and I'm getting it wrong. And I do worry about that, because sometimes if you're not in that industry, then you don't even really know sometimes what questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know. I could easily get something heinously wrong. Um, which in my head that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's just, and then having it pointed out to you after it's already published or something is when you're just like, oh god.
Yes.
I can go back and kind of change that in the next edition, but I have to go that far first, and oops, sorry. But
Yeah.
I have not seen anything wrong in your books. Is one of the reasons why I kind of brought that up, is because I see things that go. I'd mentioned in the intros that this book is so you, because you do have a very distinct voice in your writing,
Thank you.
and and I loved it because it's like, okay, I need to read something that is going to not depress me, but is going to engross me and also somewhat amuse me. I'm going to read some Rob. Now,
That's Carl. Carl is amusing
yes.
and not really very serious. I mean, he in his own mind he is serious as all hell. But if you're on the outside watching him, just going, "Dude, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works," then yeah, you're having a much better time than he is, which is why I like him so much.
Now, you've mentioned that you wrote him before, but he's not. It was something that got that was only out for a short time. But they're
Yes, exactly, Steve. Yeah, he's Carl. I'm Carl fucking Spaberg. Yeah, that's yeah. I yes. He started out as a villain in a short story where it wasn't from his point of view, so he was a fairly larger asshole than
oh
he is in. I mean, he's still an Carl's still an asshole,
oh
but
yeah.
it's a little softened because you're seeing him through his eyes, and he thinks he's friggin' wonderful. Um, but yeah, the first it was an anthology that wasn't really out for all that long. Um, but I had kind of fun writing him as this hyper aggressive tabloid reporter. Um, I needed a character for this. I needed someone to be investigating these murders. I didn't. I looked into it being a cop, but it's on a reservation, so there's all kinds of legal. It's a mess. It's legally,
Mhm.
it's all kinds of tangled, and like I said, it was supposed to be a short story, and I was doing all kinds of research, and I sent an email to the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, which also I'm probably on another watch list now, asking like who would have original jurisdiction in a murder uh, on or multiple murders, and us for a story. Honest to God, it was that kind of email. Um, I wound up turning down a bunch of previous characters. I had the story, and I needed an investigator for it, one who wasn't from the area because he would know everything,
Mhm.
um, and one who didn't have a whole bunch of resources that I wouldn't know. Like you said, I wouldn't know anything about it. I would be getting those things wrong. Um, so I decided not to use those, and he popped into my head. This horrible asshole from another story, who's a reporter. Um, so I plunked him in there, and it in my head it fixed the whole thing and made it a lot of fun. Um,
Oh yeah.
which I'm hoping it's fun for everyone else, but I had a ball. So
I I had a blast. It was so much fun reading this story. It was just like a, yeah, I'm staying awake all night now because I cannot put this down. And so like hours later, I've already been like yelling at the birds and everything because they're tweeting and stuff. But it was gorgeous. I,
cool. Thank you.
and you guys, if you don't win your free copy, you have to get a copy because this is just beautiful. It it's it okay, not beautiful. That's not a right term for it. It's it's beautifully satirical, I guess. It's very
I guess.
snarky in its outcome, just if you're reading it. And I'm wondering, and I'm going to call you on a couple things here, if we're going to hear some more of Spagler in the future, and if so, is his editor Crawley going to be involved? Because I don't know if that was a throwaway reference towards the end, but there was kind of a reference towards him at the very end. And like I said, I didn't know if it was supposed to be a throwaway or if it was something that you were.
Yeah, I plan on writing more stuff about with Carl and the Weekly World Mirror. Crawley will probably figure in somewhere because he hates him. Carl hates Crawley because he doesn't
Okay.
like having a boss. There
And
is
will the chin be available for comment?
probably. Oh yeah, the chin will have to make a reappearance. But yeah, I do plan on writing some more. Really,
Awesome.
he's a really unwilling paranormal investigator, um, which makes it so much. And there's so many things that he can investigate, and he will
Oh
hate
yeah.
every minute of it.
Yeah. His, I was telling my mom about the book, and I'm like, and he's just, you're like, you love to hate this guy. And she's like, well, like, why? Give me some examples. And I threw out a couple of the different things that he did or what he was thinking about as he was doing some of, I'm not going to give away anything because it's just, you guys got to see the horrible person that this guy is in the book.
Yeah,
It's a well written book, and then this just character makes it even better by being just such a dick, really.
yeah, he's a dick.
But she
He's
was just like, that's not that's beyond being a dick. That guy's just a horrible human being. And I'm like, somewhat, yeah.
kind of, yeah. But as long as
He has his moments,
yeah,
but not many of them, and they aren't always what you think they are. You're like, yeah, that's nice of you to. Oh no, you had an ulterior motive with that. So okay.
yeah. There's a number one, and Carl's looking out for it.
Oh
And
yeah.
if he winds up helping other people along the way, hey, someone's got to take credit for that shit. So
Oh yeah. And the wrap up was wonderful too. Um, we were talking about doing a reading. Were you able to
sure,
find something? Because
yes.
I don't think I'm going to make you have to go on for the full 2 hours that we've done in times past, because that just gets to be a little
No, but
overwhelming.
I've got
But if you have more things you want to talk about, I would really like to encourage you to bring them up.
I have kind of a long reading, I think.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. We would
Monday,
love to hear.
Tuesday, it gets me into Wednesday.
All right. Gonna move you over here.
Okay.
Give the screen to you.
All right.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Monday, it begins. They all screamed like children. The thought floated through Ron's mind as he scrabbled in the dirt and gravel, packed nearly hard as tarmac by the passage of backhoe and dump truck. Both machines sat in the sight, and he could have driven the truck out of there, but he'd gone right past it in his headlong sprint, reduced to blind, panicked flight. Construction was a hard job, and one of the things it built was hard men, especially Ron's crew. I mean, no shit. Cal had once, in a moment of distraction, punched a drywall screw right through the meat of his hand, and then, without complaint or comment, backed the screw out, wrapped the hand in a rag, and kept on working. Dave had gone 3 days on a broken foot, merely tightening his bootlaces for support before they'd forced him to go to the doctor. Now, all five had stories like that. Times they'd sucked it up and driven on because that's what you do. But Joe, Matt, Cal, even Dave, they'd all wailed like little boys in the end. And Ron, who'd never run from a fight in his life, even that time it had been 3-on-1 during dollar beer night at the tap, had lit out as fast as he could while his friends, hell, his crew, died behind him. He'd almost made it to the road, might have gotten away, but he stepped in a hole, felt something snap in his ankle, and thunder boomed. So loud and close the ground shook. Ron looked back, tear-streaked eyes wide, and relaxed. He spoke a single word, confused even amidst a struggle for his life. Mom? No, Mom whispered. Then Ron also screamed like a child under the clear, sunny sky. Tuesday, the boss of me. Carl burst into the outer office, ignored the boss's current PA, and marched toward Max's door. Without even looking up, the young lady, Julia, Carl was pretty sure, and he had a newsman's memory for names, said, "Go on in. He's expecting you." Carl's stride faltered. Damn it, he thought. So much for the element of surprise. Too late to stop now, though. He lifted his chin to a degree that screamed indignation and burst into the inner office. Max, Carl! Max sat behind the desk. Big office chair leaned back to a ludicrous degree, ankles casually crossed atop the blotter, hands folded behind his head. Been expecting you. Please. He indicated the visitor's chair with a deeply dimpled chin. Take a seat. The chin always threw Carl. He never forgot a face. What good reporter did? And when he'd first come to the Weekly World Mirror a year ago, Max Bierman's chin had been, much like the rest of him, wholly unremarkable. Then Max had taken a 1-month recovery, vacation, and boom. It was like someone had grafted the lower half of Kirk Douglas's face onto Bierman's head. It was off-putting. It was jarring. It was startlingly effective in altering one's perceptions of the tabloid's editor-in-chief. Things said in his somewhat smug, somewhat laughing, "I'm just enjoying the hell out of life" way suddenly carried more weight. Bierman knew it, too, calling attention to the feature time and again. The bastard. I want to talk to you about... Take a seat, Carl. Bierman repeated the gesture with his surgically crafted secret weapon. Please. Damn it. Carl flounced into the chair, realized this was not the most aggressive move to make when attempting to browbeat his boss, and set his feet on the floor, leaning forward imperiously. There, I'm sitting. Happy? Max opened his mouth to reply, but Carl didn't wait. You've got to do something about Crawley. I can't. No. Believe what he's... I don't. Trying to get away with... What? Max's gentle smile widened. No, I don't. Carl's eyes bulged. Oh, don't you even want to hear? Nope. Indignation wasn't working. Carl shifted gears and narrowed his eyes, going for steely professionalism. Well, you're gonna. That man down there is your immediate superior. Carl took a breath, re-narrowed his eyes, ignored the chin, and started again. That man down there is ordering me to Cherokee, North Carolina, to look into a quintuple homicide. It's the middle of nowhere. The cops have already solved it, and it's the middle of nowhere. He sat back with folded arms, accidentally slipping back into indignant. Contrary to popular opinion, you are a reporter. Max somehow flexed his dimple, the ruthless son of a bitch. And that sounds like news to me. Your editor says to cover it, you cover it. Case closed. I'm the best reporter in Boston. The best you've ever seen. It took me about 5 minutes online to look into this. Cherokee's in the Qualla boundary, reservation land, so it was investigated by feds, not some bumbling local outfit. A crew clearing land for a strip mall was hit by some eco-terrorists. We can't call them that, or all the John and Jane Qs will think of bombs and planes and get all confused, so they'll be called an ecologically conscious group or some other bullshit. Said eco-terrorists to be named later. Probably once the tree huggers realize that unless they come forward and claim credit, they won't get any. Boom. Done. It's looked into. I can write something up if you want, maybe do a follow-up once those Friends of the Forest chuckleheads give us a name, but Crawley wants boots on the ground. Your boots, Cherokee, North Carolina ground. Have a nice flight. Carl gaped, caught himself, and turned it into a slow, cat-like blink. I'm not going. Max sighed. Suit yourself. I refuse. Fine. Carl stood. Then I'm heading straight down to Crawley and telling him to give me another assignment. He started for the door, maintaining his arrogant strut, though at felt a little spongy, and he couldn't help thinking, why does this seem too easy? His hand was actually on the knob when Max spoke up, voice jauntier than ever. You won't get one. Aha! Carl whirled. What do you mean? Of course I'll. He's given you an assignment. Until you complete it to the best of your ability, you don't get another one. Carl actually sputtered. I'll walk out. You think I need this place? Don't be ridiculous. I'm the best reporter you've ever seen. I could have a job. You may well be the best reporter I've ever seen, said Max, kicking his feet off the desk and leaning forward on his elbows, tone suddenly serious. I've seen no evidence of that, but I'll admit the possibility is there. Possibility? You... But what I know you are is the reporter who wrote that main story. The one about... Carl waved his hands. I don't want to talk about that. You were a guy on your way up, hungry, and you stepped on your dick. You wrote a story that got you fired. A story rejected by every paper in Boston, every paper in New England. A story only we would print. He waved a hand toward the framed front pages hanging behind him, Weekly World Mirror headlines shouting from the wall. Elvis probed me on an alien vessel. Man marries Sycamore, and they have kids. Bigfoot found in suburbs. He's a homeowner, people. You walked in here with that story a year ago, and here you still are, sitting in Cambridge, writing for the oldest tabloid in the country. You've bitched the whole time that this place is beneath you, but as far as anybody out there in the real world is concerned, this is where you belong. Carl's fist balled. I don't belong here. You walk out that door. Max chinned toward the exit. Tell all those real world folks you can't even work here. And I give it a month before you're just some yobbo with a blog, babbling in Lavoie with nobody listening. Carl gaped again. That's you. I would never. He realized he felt about bloggers now the same way he felt about tabloids last year. He would never, ever stoop so low. And yet, here he still was. Shit. Max must have seen the newshound's shoulders slump, for his lilting vocal bounce reappeared as he threw Carl a bone. Look, I know you want to dig yourself out of the hole, start your climb back up to the big leagues. I get it. So, look at it this way. Crowley's not asking you to write up another carnivorous vole or giant centipede story. He's not asking you to fabricate anything. Just go out in the field and do some investigative journalism. You don't think there's a story there? Your editor does. Go find one. Be the best damned reporter I've ever seen. Wow me. Wow all of us. Think of it as a step toward erasing the memory of that Maine fiasco. Think of it as, he framed a headline in the air, Ace reporter takes a step in the right direction. The son of a bitch has me. Carl glared. It's got to be the chin. He flounced back into the chair. Fuck it. I've lost this one, but I can't go out weak. He folded his arms and arched his brows, back ramrod straight. I demand an aisle seat. Wednesday. Meet George. Mom had told him not to leave the yard, and George had listened. Pretty much. All the kids considered the vacant lot next door as kind of George's yard, and he could still see his house when he was in the right place and nothing was in the way, so he was practically in his own yard. Pretty much. Besides, Jimmy and Johnny Ballin had been with him, making a fort of scrap lumber and other junk. It might look like crap, but they were going to rule the next rock fight. Until the brothers had been called in for dinner. Now it was just George, putting on some finishing touches and waiting to hear his own mother's call. He'd found an old stop sign that would work great as a shutter for the main window, opening to peg rocks through but closing when they needed to repel an attack. It'd be better with hinges, or even tied at the top with a rope, if they could find some. But for now, he crouched inside the fort, working the sign back and forth, carving a groove in the uneven dirt floor. Leaned against the wall and slid from side to side, it should work just fine. He grinned. We are going to rule! Thunder rolled. He peered out, saw nothing but blue sky and what he could see, and kept working. Thunder rolled, closer this time, He'd be fine in the fort. The roof was less holy than the walls, but Mom would want him in if it started raining. He worked the sign faster, trying for a smooth groove before he ran out of time. George? Startled, he peeked out again. Grandma Watatuka, Mom's mom, stood at the edge of the small clearing in front of the fort. Grandma? Mom sent you to come get me? Smiling, the old woman nodded, beckoning with one hand. The other was tucked inside her sweater, like that guy he'd seen in history books, Napoleon Boner. He left the sign and went out to meet her. Did you come over for dinner? Then, as he drew near, worried about the pretty much, am I in trouble? Yes. Grandma's hand left her sweater and flashed across his vision. For a shocked moment, George thought his beloved grandmother had slapped him. Rather than heat and pain growing in his cheek, however, it was a sharp line across his neck. His surprised cry refused to leave his mouth, coming instead as a red splash against Grandma's suddenly gray face. Eyes wide, he reached for the pain, but everything he touched felt hot and wet. Grandma pushed him hard, and he went over backward to fall, choking and gurgling into the black. And I'll stop there.
Wonderful. Thank you. We got to see the chin, we got to see
Yes.
some Carl, and we got to see some of the horror involved. So
Yeah.
thanks for including all of that. That was very awesome.
That
You're
was
welcome.
great.
Thank you.
And you even took a jab at yourself.
I did?
Yes. You know about the centipede and
Oh, that,
hole?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the headlines, yeah.
And something that Steve had mentioned when we had you guys on here before is that you are the best person to read your stuff, or you are the best person at reading your own stuff, I think. So do you have any plans for narration in the future? These are all like, if it's one of the things where it's like, I don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Or,
It's yes, I just need time is all. And practice, because I tend to go I go too fast. It works for it works for a Boston character because we talk fast. Usually I'm consciously slowing down, but I realized that I live in a part of the country where we talk fast generally, and once I get rolling, I talk fast even for this part of the country. So I need to slow down some. But
yeah,
yes, I'm working on it.
I weirdly picked that up as a child because though I live in Nebraska, my mother traveled a lot for
Mhm.
work. And whenever she would go to Boston, she would come back, or like pretty much anywhere in that area, she would come back going 90 miles an hour in her speech. It was just like
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. So I was nicknamed Motor Mouth because I grabbed that habit from her the number of times she'd done it, and I just maintained it. So I was like, people would be like, what the hell did you just say? I didn't understand any of it. You just, and it was all gone.
Yeah.
But
I when I'm nervous, it's worse. I go super fast when I'm nervous. Which means if I'm reading on stage, I usually am nervous. And I have told people before, if I'm going too fast, like flag me down, something, let me know that I'm going to, and I'll slow down, because I'm usually not aware of it until too late.
yeah. Well, I love hearing you read, and yeah, I love this book so much. Do you have anything
Thank
else?
you.
Oh, of course. I've been thrilled. I got to know you through Weird House, and then have gotten to read all of this other stuff. And I you guys check out the comments up above, down below, side to side, somewhere there. Not the comments, the
If you're on
links.
YouTube, it's
There.
down there. If you're on Facebook, it's up there.
If you're on the planet Bizarro world, it's over there. I think. Is that a planet? It's a
It
Depends.
is now.
dimension. It is now. So
There's a
go
planet
over
called
there.
Miranda. Why not?
Find Rob's stuff. You're going
Yes.
to love it. Laundry Legs, even though it had, I mean, that one was kind of a little having. If you don't mind giving a little bit of stuff away, there's a bit
Nope.
of reference to the potential dementia and stuff involved in there.
Yes.
And if you have had a relative with dementia, or know somebody with dementia, it it's very well written with the character
Yes, it
not
is.
knowing whether or not, is this really happening or not, and it's very heart gripping, but at the same time, it's a very entertaining story, and it's very Rob. Rob has a very distinctive voice in everything he does, and if you love it, you're going to love everything that he's written, at least
I,
everything that he's written that I've read so far, which is a fair amount at this point.
I try to
So,
be entertaining.
and
That's the point of it. So
yeah, you succeed very well. You were an excellent storyteller.
thank you.
Um, Beyond the event coming up, do you have anything else going on in your life right now that you'd like to talk
Um,
about?
I'm currently I'm working on rewrites for a middle grade book for a publisher. Um, Hopefully, it's my first shot. It's my first attempt um, with anything middle grade. Um, I think I'm told I did it well.
Okay.
Um, I actually I sent it to a couple of actual kids and didn't get any feedback from them, but I sent it to a librarian I know who runs the children's section of the library, and she said that yeah, I apparently I did it well. Um, but the publisher's looking for a couple of things to be added in. I'm trying to figure out what to put and where, and then hopefully that'll be coming out sometime next year. At the moment, it's called Mr. Halloween.
Okay.
Ooh.
Um, that could
That's
change. Uh, it won't be up to me. If it's up to me, it's going to stay Mr. Halloween. Um, and I have a weird Western novella that's out with a beta reader at the moment. Something called Coyote Girl.
okay. That sounds awesome. So, young adult horror and weird western headed our
Yes.
way, and potentially narration in the future if time permits, which I think we all know that that's one of those things where because it's not just a matter of sitting and reading, it's a matter of sitting in a place where you can get everything read without all the noises in the background. And if your stomach rumbles or your pacing is off, you have to restart again on that section. And
Yes.
it's a it's more than people think about, I think, at times.
And I have done it. I haven't done it for myself, but I've done it for a couple of different story based podcasts. The Starship Sofa and Tales to Terrify. Um, and there was a pulp one that I'm blanking on the name of. But yes, I've done the recording and I've done the editing. I'm probably way slower at the editing than someone who knows what they're doing would be. Um, but I know I can do it, and I will. If I work at it, I will be better at it. It's just getting the time to sit down and record stuff. Um, and I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind recording Carl's stories because he's from here. He's supposed to talk like I talk.
Hmm. That's fun. It's great that you have like the characters that you like Carl and stuff that you can go into it. And you do when you're reading like some pretty good voices too, as far as like covering your younger characters and such.
Thank
So
you.
I think that I always think that and it's not always right. I being spoiled by Neil Gaiman and Clive Barker initially as some of the people who I listen
Yeah.
to read their own writing, you go, nobody else should read this but the author because the author knows what's going on. But then you hear some authors read their stories and you're just like, wow, they so should not have done that. I'm sure anyone would have been willing to help them out. But
Yeah.
you you've got the knack for it. So I'm excited to hopefully see some of that coming out.
It'd be nice. Thank you.
So usually we do this giveaway tool. We're going to give away 2 copies of the pre-order off of Kindle. As we've only had 3 commenters, though we have more viewers. If anybody else wants to comment, get something in here real quick because I'm going to pop this up. And Shannon, don't worry, we got you, Shannon. We've got Shannon, Steve, and Tom Dog so far. And I have been building personal libraries for some people through all of this. But okay, we're going to hop over there real quick. And since there's 3 and I was giving away 2, this is going to be the not so giveaway tool. We are going to spin to see who the loser is.
You want me to
Ah.
play a song when we do that?
I'm not going to play. Actually, okay, I do have one thing I can play. I'll get it ready. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to draw. And sorry. Tom Dog, you lost this time. So, Steve and Shannon, you will each be getting a. Oh, Steve already has one. Well, now you say it. Okay, so nobody lost.
Perfect.
Yay! All right, Steve has a copy. Shannon and Tom, you'll be getting pre-orders out, and we'll get everything set up with that. I will get your addresses after the show. Tom, I believe I have yours, but Shannon, I will need to get your address so I can get it sent out to you. And yeah, other than that, Rob, where do you like to have everybody get you?
robsmales.com. You hopefully it's working. You were saying earlier that you went to visit the site and it wasn't quite working. Hopefully it is. I've been there recently and it was for me, but then
I've had a weird issue with my new internet, so it might have been something to do with that too.
okay.
So
I'll check it. It did it it swapped platforms twice, which yeah, it was kind of annoying. Started out as a Webs site, and then Webs sold it to Vistaprint, and then Vistaprint kind of merged with Wix and handed it over to them. And I keep finding out after the fact that hey, shit, my site's different now. So I'll check that. I actually need to update it because there is no mention of Spearfinger on my site. That's one of those things that I'm going to get to that. I should probably do that before it actually comes out in 2 weeks.
yeah, and you can find it on Amazon.com if you look under Rob.
Yep.
And I think we have your author page listed as well in the links here for Amazon. So
okay,
that should be able to get you everything. I'm going to go next because Jenny has a lot. You can catch me as Delphine here on the Owlite Network, and the host body for this crow that's coming to talk to you is Carrie, Kari Sanders, and you can find me over on Facebook. And if you see an avatar of a crow, you found me, and all of my links are there. When I'm not here on the Owlite Network, I am over hanging out with the gents on the Dorkening, doing splash pages on Tuesdays and Midweek Geeks when we feel like it on Wednesdays. And Jenny covers everything. So bring us out, Jenny.
Okay, if you want to find me, I'm at her page, all of them. I'm on Owlite, I'm on Fake Horror, I'm on Friday with the Blue Box and Friday Blues Disorganized Library. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of basically anybody of our group, you'll be talking to me first, and then I will transfer you over to them. So yeah, come find them and I'll help transfer you to them. Unless you want to actually find me, then yay!
And we have had talks about Jenny posing as all of us and carrying on huge conversations behind our backs that we don't know about, and then posting those up at some point later. So keep an eye out for that, ladies and gents. See what you think. But yeah, at this point, go out, get your hands on Spearfinger if you aren't given one from this, coming out on the 14th. It is an amazing book, super awesome, and we're looking forward to having Rob on again. We're going to keep him because he's one of our favorites. So
Cool.
nice to have you all here,
I love
and
Rob.
everybody have a good night.